areas. Please listen, in rural areas. Let's take a listen to him, please.
In community secondary school, where I come from, there's no security personnel in that school. Even the little amenities in that school are provided by the community. We have made similar attempts requesting the government to come to provide security. They don't have basic learning equipment and materials. No library, no lab. The little ones that are available are the ones provided by the community, and they have been vandalized because there are no security in the school. And in fact, the place needs to be thanked.
And now, hello Port Harcourt with Jude on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, so that's the premise. Now let's get to hear from someone who joins us this morning. Samuel, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jude. Good morning, Port Harcourt.
Once again, you've taken your basket, you've taken your shoes, your swimming trunk, and indeed your umbrella into the rural areas. And this time, Umechem in particular, and if I'm not mistaken, that was not the only place you visited in your last visit. Okay, so tell us what you observed as it concerns the schools in those rural areas.
It's actually alarming, the rate of vandalism of some of these school properties. The ones provided by the government and the ones that by community efforts are also being given to the school. You see in some schools the roofs are taken off. The zinc in
what do you like? What rainy season or something?
Not rainy season. Not like there are some that it's a clear case of the storm, coming to take off the roof. But you also find cases of thefts, like the roof, the zinc itself is pulled off and intentionally taken. Doesn't
that take people, to come up, climb, and make noise while this is being removed? Because I don't think roofing sheets, are clips and ties. If I'm not mistaken, you have to nail things in position.
Yes, but then you would also not rule out that it's either community members are involved or somehow they have a link to what is actually happening. But then you also find the windows, being pulled off. Like these things are not in place, but from the original design, like when you see the school, you will notice that these things were part of things that were put in place during the building, But then all of these things are either destroyed or are being taken away, and it's reoccurring. And in the case of community secondary school in Umechem in particular, you also find the doors are not in place.
The doors to the classroom?
Yes, are not in place. Most of these schools, not just community secondary school in Umechem, most of them in rural areas are without fencing. Like the school is just an open place where anybody comes in, walk in to do anything you want to do. And beyond that too, this issue of security posts, you find it lacking in most of these community schools, And
I know, for example, for the sake of reference, let's use some of the schools, public schools now in Port Harcourt. I know, for example, the school at Choba, opposite University of Port Harcourt, the Choba campus. I know there's a gate post, there's a security post, and I've seen personnel there. I've also seen one or two persons at this one, the Rumosi secondary school close to us, and also at Alakaya. Are you saying in these places that you went to rural in rural River State, you didn't see them?
Most of the places, yes. There were no security posts. Then there's no security personnel
on the premises
of the school.
It wasn't even designed.
It's not designed. So first of all, you find that there is no security posts, and then there is no security personnel. It also means that the students, some of them can walk out of the school at will and walk in. You also find cases where relatives at random would want to visit the students or some of their relatives too. And, it's not done in accordance with security checks. It's the environment is kind of porous, and it's really raising a lot of concerns. For me, government really has to do a lot when it has to do with the fencing of these schools, protecting the children. The school resumed yesterday, and there are cases of insecurity. We wouldn't rule that out, especially as this is the Ember Month. But then, what are the necessary measures that can be put in place? The CDC chairman of Umechem, thank God, when I was talking to him in an interview, he made mention that the community even had to put in efforts to see how they could provide some sort of materials for the students, put in the libraries. But then, I don't know if it is the students, but he also said that these things are being taken away. Like, it's a recurrent issue of theft and vandalism. The roof, the ceilings too. The ceiling boards are also destroyed. You find some of these schools built by one of the administrations in Rivers State. Most often the ceiling fans there are also taken off. The light bulbs, like, it's something intentional, and you find some of them broken. Like, the places where they are, you will tell that often it's not the students that are doing these things. These are people from outside too. And the cases of these rural places are also cases where I attended a rural primary school.
Okay.
In my time, although there was a security man, but there was no security post too.
So what was the security man position?
You just sit somewhere. Then it used to be one palm tree,
okay,
and some mango trees that had shade. So he will stay there, and you just know that his presence is registered there. But then
what happens when it rains, like today?
When it rains, they are not also often coming to work. These are public schools. And the students often at times they are just left to
their own devices,
do their stuffs, and
they just come to school, play
around, and all of those. When I visited community secondary school in Ebueche, I'm yet to conclude on that report. But my visit to community secondary school in Ebueche even shows that the teachers themselves, some of them are seeking for transfer out of the school due to the dilapidated state of the building, and for them it is more of an issue of storm. The winds came and destroyed their roofs and all of those. But then the windows were also destroyed, not by the wind,
not by the storms.
Yeah, it was destroyed by either students or some vandals in and around the school environment.
All right, so now you visit these places, no security posts in some of these places, and like you said, because of the security concerns in the in quote legendary or fabled Ember Month that we've just got into September, and also in lieu of some of the more recent happenings around River State, talking about kidnappings, and things like that. Reports have also come in the past, and some of them not being unconfirmed, that in some of these rural areas where kidnappings do occur, they don't get to be reported to the police, because they usually meet the
chiefs,
chiefs there, and then it's okay. Let's settle. And when these happen, the first question you have to ask is, how did they get to
the school premises?
And now you are telling us that first and foremost, no fencing,
yes,
no security posts,
yes,
no security personnel. So the students are left to their own devices with the teachers.
Not forgetting that these are young children. They are not adults that you can say, okay, let them take care of themselves since they are in school. It's different from the universities, and even the university environment, they are fenced.
Okay.
So why would you expose the children who are underage to the lack of security?
All right, so Samuel Wala there with a report. We'll go on a break. When we come back, we'll open the phone lines, and if you're by chance listening to us and you're from Umechem, tell us what's going on. this morning, Inside Rivers, we're taking a very close look at the communities. In this particular instance, how their schools are faring. Our reporter took a visit and he's discovered that a lot of the schools are lacking in security, not just in infrastructure, but also in personnel. The question then, which is where we are right now, is this: should these schools be shut if the security isn't guaranteed? That's my big question for you this morning. Should these schools be shut if the security is not guaranteed for the students? And now, I know it's going to be a fool's errand to say, let the government send in policemen to all the rural communities in Rivers State. Already, this country is under police. There's a big problem as regarding the number of personnel that we have to keep at the borders and also to help police the state and states. So it's going to be a very big task to say, okay, we're going to send policemen to the schools. Imagine the various community secondary schools all over 23 local government areas. Are you going to put 1, 2, 5 policemen to guard each of these schools? And don't forget, there's also the in quote Nigerian problem. So you send policemen there. Do they have enough resources to cater for these policemen? Will their salaries be able to maintain them? What about housing? Many of these places, we've also talked about, how housing is poor in the rural areas. Who's going to be able to pay that transfer fare? The roads, particularly in a place like Eche. The communities around Eche for years have been complaining about how poor the infrastructure is as regarding roads. So it's a big problem, multifaceted. But as we get on this morning, please have this in mind, that in the past 5 years, half a decade, Nigeria saw an increase in attacks on institutions, educational institutions around the country, particularly in the northeast and in even the north central, because even Abuja, the FCT capital, had been invaded, or at least had institutions of note. The University of Abuja attacked on several occasions within the past 5 years. People were kidnapped. Some people even lost their lives in some of these attacks. Now, these are places where there are fences, there are security posts, there are security personnel, they even have Wi-Fi to communicate with each other. What about the rural communities here in Port Harcourt? My name is Jude. Welcome once again to Hello Port Harcourt.
Stimulating and insightful conversations. Hello Port Harcourt. 92.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Well, our man is here in the studio with us. Before we open the phone lines, we'll get to talk a little bit to Samuel Wala, and we get to find out from you, those who are either within the Eche area, or maybe you are from there and you're listening to us. Samuel, good morning to you once again.
Good morning once again, Jude.
Okay, now you've made your observations. You're still working on reports in several areas that you have been visiting. Now, you made mention that in your time, you attended one of those community schools. But it wasn't fenced, but it was a security personnel.
Yeah.
But you didn't experience vandalism.
I think the issue with back then and now is then the community saw the schools to be theirs. So they owned it. Like they were responsible for the security of first the students and secondly the properties in the school. If you look at some schools in Rivers State generally, some of them were built by the community. Some of the amenities there were also provided by the community. So there was a sense of ownership. And I think it's one of the things that we're lacking these days. The communities and people in rural areas somehow feels that this school is built by the government and is their thing. With even their kids are not. I'm not really saying that people from rural communities, their children have to attend the schools and all of those. I mean, we all come from villages, but then. What are the communities and the leaders of these communities, the chiefs and the others? What are they doing to ensure that things are not getting out of hand the way it is now? It was not what it is back then.
I have to share a similar sentiment with you, and we'll get into some of the big men that we have in Port Harcourt in particular right now, who are resident in Port Harcourt, have been doing business for over 30 plus years in this city, came from these community schools, and I heard that a lot of the times in some of these cases the community will either come together, they will levy themselves, the villages will levy themselves and say, okay, you know what, government, you provide the teachers and the amenities, we will build the structure. All right, we'll build the structure. In some cases, they'll tell, okay, the government has built the structure, they sent us, they'll tell you, okay, you know what, we will make sure that the maintenance of this place is done. So the cutting of the grass, you know, the weeding of the compound, the painting, usually it is borne by the community. And I don't know if that's the same today. What exactly has led to this transition of vandalism? Because once again, for those community schools, majority, if not the entirety of the students who attend those facilities are within the community. So they are their sons, they're their cousins, they're their neighbors.
Yes, and just to add, when we talk about security in schools, the police will not be everywhere. That's
True.
the honest truth.
Yeah.
And in my time, the security officer then was a member of the community. One of the, he was not really coming to bully people or boss people around, but his presence was registered and felt too. He was one of the men in the community, and the community also brought him. And I learned over time he was reintegrated into this
school system,
and government started paying him. But initially, it was a voluntary service. The community says, okay, you man the security post, even when there was no security post, you man the security post, and then from community stipends, they paid him. You understand? And then things were not out of hand. You could not see youths and people going to vandalize school properties. Even when you come around to play football and all of this after school hours, you also care for the way you play this ball so it doesn't destroy what is yours. So what is now happening? Why are people not taking cognizance of this fact that these schools are built in their communities and is owned by them in the community?
All right, so we're going to open the phone lines now. As always, turn down the volume of your radio set. Refrain from making derogatory or defamatory comments. Didn't see it, didn't hear it. Please do not make unsubstantiated and unverified claims. And very importantly, do not make inciting statements.
The views and opinions shared on this program do not represent the position of Nigeria Info FM. Nigeria Info, let's talk.
017-923-0002, 0817923-0003. These are the numbers that you can use to have a conversation with us. And then get onto social media at Nigeria Info PH, at Nigeria Info PH is where you find us on Facebook and on X, which is Twitter, at Nigeria Info PH, at Nigeria Info PH. All right, very quickly, we have a comment here, and let me take that. We have a caller. Zion is on the line from GRA. Lots of community schools from time past have had no fencing. Vandalism wasn't, however, the order of the day. What has changed? Is it the people's attitude? Are people no longer interested in protecting Commonwealth? Well, we are asking the same question. Zion, good morning to you, please.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I feel the kind of people we have in our society now, especially the Niger Delta region, is a call for concern and questioning. I saw my father protecting community school properties. My father and his friends who are retired from the military. That was years back. Today, these communities, what are they doing? They are so quick to call on the government, so quick the government, and so irritating. Go ask your local government chairman. For every government school built, there's a 10 slot for security. And it's in a local government wage bill as local government worker.
Okay.
Why are those people not going to work? These are the people that will still come to complain. They have not paid us our salary. They have not paid us our gratuity. We have pension, no salary. They have not paid us. Ask them. When you're on active service, Were you faithful with your duty?
But Zion, in this case, and I don't know if you paid attention to what our man observed when he was visiting these places, observing these things. He said in some places, no fence at all. And so, how do you expect today? Wait, hold on, Zion. How do you expect a teacher? Zion,
our lackadaisical approach.
How do you expect a teacher right now in River State with all the concerns of security? How do you expect a teacher to feel to go to work without a fence?
Now, hold on first, I'm on the floor. When these schools are being built, the specification is a security post and classrooms. When the construction was going on, where was the community leader to come and ask the contractor, where is our security post here? I'm telling you about the laziness of the people in the environment. Somebody has pocketed that money, the security post building, has pocketed the money. It must not carry fence. Fence not included. It's the security post, the class buildings. That is how it is being for. We don't engage government policies. We want to abuse government, abuse people.
I need to make this interjection here because, like I said, you alluded that your forebear, used to help protect the schools in the community where you grew up. But a lot of communities around River State, and I've visited a lot of them in the past 10 years, not because of this issue, but they didn't have fences, and one of the reasons why they didn't have fences was because now our community, in our land, people neighbors didn't have fences between them. People could tell whose compound was on fire or something. It was the same mentality that they had with these schools.
Building those buildings, then the insecurity rate was not capturing that it can be this nefarious. The way those buildings were built then, so fencing was not part of the documentation. Even most of our fences were not part of it. But our today modern building, the first people think about is fencing.
Yeah, but there is a possibility, Zion, that some of these schools were built 20 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
20 years ago, some 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So now that that's the case, now what then should people do? It wasn't
the community. They have CDC. They have paramount ruler. Can they pinpoint some able-bodied men, be the security of our school properties, guide our properties? This is being done. What my father taught me growing up as a child, I'm now handing it over to my children. I have formed a vigilante in my community. When I saw the porousness, I did it. Why can't we also do the same? Take up the responsibility. But wake up government. And
okay.
Most of us, government has given us opportunity. We have been abusing the opportunity the government gave to us.
Zion, thank you very much. Eric Chooks on WhatsApp says, good morning, Jude. If Umiechem Eche cannot secure ceiling fan in a school, what assurance do the community and teachers have that the laboratory materials they are asking government to provide for them will not be stolen or vandalized? The community should arrange to secure its schools or have them closed. Eric Chooks. Samuel, let me come to you now.
Very interesting.
Eric has hit literally nail on it. Remember, the question we're asking this morning: if the security of these schools cannot be guaranteed, should they be shut down? He's saying that look, if as it is now, the community themselves cannot do so. Don't forget, these are the same community members that are asking government for power, for road, for A, B, C, and D. You're not asking them to come and secure the place. And he said if they don't, they should shut all the schools down.
No, he is saying that because the CDC chairman was also requesting for laboratories to be built,
yes,
and for libraries to be put in place.
Yeah.
So that was not just what he said. He also requested that the school should be fenced. So if you fence the school, and by fencing design, it will now come with a security post.
Hopefully.
And then you now put a security personnel there.
Who's going to pay for it?
Ordinarily, Jude, government should employ non-academic staff.
Okay. All right. Basil is in Ugrita. Basil, good morning to you, please.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Basil.
Yeah, this issue, it's just the youth. I keep on saying that we, the youth, are the problem of our communities.
Interesting.
Because it's not possible that an outsider will come to my own community to steal properties. Because even where I serve, there was no accommodation for youth corpers. Why? Because the principal said it was the youth that came to steal things from the building built by the government for the corpers. So you see now, because of that now, corpers are running away from the community because no accommodation. So the youth are the problem. That is what I would say, because an outsider cannot come and steal and go.
Okay, so Basil, let me ask you. You're in a greater, right? Let me ask you. But if the community schools around a greater, or maybe from where you are from, or I don't know if you are from a greater, right? If you hear that the students there are not safe, there's no fence, no security man, and everything, do you think, as schools have opened with all the things happening around River State in recent times, do you think the schools should be shut?
No.
Why not?
I would just advise that there should be a levy placed for the students or for placed on the parents so that they can, within themselves, provide security for themselves rather than waiting for the government, because it may not come early enough.
All right, Basi, thank you very much. Samuel, so Basi says levies should be made. Seemingly, what was happening, about 2, 3 decades, 4 decades ago when the communities used to levy themselves. But you are in the newsroom. You get to have these reports. You get to go on interviews and speak to some of these people that the citizens want to get information from. And one complaint that we've been hearing a lot in Port Harcourt is that the parents are complaining that the
money be asked
exactly by the principals. They say they should bring 1,000. Isn't not free. Are you now asking this same group of parents
to pay levies
for security?
See, Jude, back then there's a difference between community fund and levies. When you levy a parent, you are only levying the parents whose children are in the school. When you say the community should provide community fund, it's different. They will come from what the community makes. The community have a way of mechanisms of generating funds for themselves. Yeah. It's easy for you to get money from community funds to provide security for the schools than
parents. Okay, interesting. Francis is speaking to us from Eliozo. Francis, good morning to you, please. Good morning, Francis.
Yeah, somewhere along the line, let us say the truth. Let us face facts. What is all this? The same community that is made up of the parents that are paying school fees, that are buying books for their children and taking care of them. The same community that has people that are paying taxes. The same community that is asking for roads, for pipeline water, infrastructure. It's the same community we are asking to protect the school. Where is it done?
But Francis, hello, Francis, can you hear me? Oh dear. Hello, Francis. Hello, Francis. Oh dear. I must apologize to the listener. It's a bit of a service provider challenge there. We had Francis on, but he couldn't hear us for in the last 5 or 8 seconds. Now, Francis raised a very good point. These communities, and I think in your last report last year, when you went to find out what the health situation is in these communities, you made mention that look, there's a heavy presence of international oil companies in
the community, yes.
In these communities, in some of these communities, and then that means those companies are paying some form of taxes to the government, either state or federal. Yeah. So the question, and Francis is right, these people are asking the government to fix their roads. They're asking for power supply, and if all those things were done, that means, the economy will probably be boosted and security might not be a concern.
A problem.
Yeah. So, but now they don't have any of these things, and you're not asking these communities to come and then protect a school. Isn't that double standards? Francis is back. Francis, good morning to you, please.
Yes, dude. Thank you.
Apologies.
So
I
was saying, these are the same people that petroleum price has increased. These are the same people that are continuing to pay more school fees because of the increase of so many things. These are the same people you are asking to secure the schools or else you close down the schools. What? This is too excessive, man. Because the president said, let people breathe. How are they going to breathe? Now, we get renovated a school along Roma Hollow. If you know that school, it's a secondary school. He renovated it. He did a very wonderful job there, and he fenced it, and he put a gate. now, Jude, we have a PTA, right? For schools.
Okay.
How effective is the PTA? It's still the parents that also contribute.
Francis, once again, you're talking about, a system that works in the urban centers. How many parents in the rural areas have a functional PTA? How many? Let's be very honest. Go to Umechem, ask the parents. Do people sit down to have PTA meetings? Do you sit down with the head teacher or the headmaster?
That's another question. As I talked to you, I'm a PTA chairman of a school. It's a private school. And there's a PTA levy. There's a PTA levy that is paid.
Okay.
So that together that PTA levy and give it to PTA is a problem for some schools. You don't even see that money.
Can you imagine?
All right. Now, if you ask PTA to now fence a school and pay the security that is taking care of the security of the school, or else you close down the school, who are we doing? We are just going round and round.
But that's the worry. Francis, but that's the worry. I agree with you. We might be going round and around. But the question is, what about the security and the safety of the students? That's the question is not the protection of the infrastructure. It's the students. Peter is in our order. Peter, good morning to you, please.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Welcome, Peter.
Yeah, I happen to be in a system.
Okay.
Where I teach in my community school. I volunteered myself to teach in my community school.
Wow.
Equally work as a security man in my community school.
Interesting.
But the community doesn't compensate me for anything I do. But the fact is, some of the administrators in the school are one of the major problems we have in the communities. Because they want to, I don't know, they want to take it that the school, since they are sent by government, they have all right to do whatever they want to do in the school, neglecting the interests of the community in the school. That's why sometimes you see that communities don't assist in some of these things. Presently in my community, we have a school which, from the textbook, chalks, community usually assist. And you see that these administrators will continue to collect money from the people, the parents in the community. Now you are saying that community should provide security and other things in the school.
But Peter, in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 80s and the 90s, that was what community secondary schools were done. That's how they were managed. They were managed because of the direct impact on the influence of communities. People used to donate money to send their children to one school in the community, the headquarters. At least that's what I read, and that's what they was told to me.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Peter. It seems like 1,000 years ago, Samuel, that these stories I heard and read as a child happened in this country. That the community will gather money and say, Samuel, you passed your common entrance. You and these 5 boys, you are the ones that will now go to this secondary school in the headquarters in this our community to represent us.
The truth is, times are changing.
True.
And we're not actually saying that the community should take up the entire responsibility of providing security for the schools in their locales. But then there's shared responsibility. Again, it is not everything that the government will do. And before the government comes, what are you doing? And the government too should not relent. Take, for instance, the fencing of a school. The land which schools occupy are vast lands. It's not something that any community would easily just fence. It's not a thing that the communities can just easily do. So if the government, they call for government to fence these schools are in order, providing of security personnel too. Pending when the government employs a non-academic staff who becomes the school security personnel, there can also be somebody who the government can, the communities can place on some sort of salary. You know, it's something I know that if the community puts all efforts in place, they can provide temporary security while the government is at their rescue.
Oh, all right. So yes, it's one of those things that for those of you who are in nice private schools and have your children there, you probably don't think about, but for a great number of Nigerians, it is the reality, particularly for those of them resident in Rivers State. Many rural communities do not have adequate security, and once again, we're living in times where people are worried, always looking over their shoulder as regarding the safety of their loved ones, and indeed of their property. Conversation doesn't stop, and we do hope those of you who have the wherewithal to impress upon your representatives. Ask them, do you know what's going on? How can we improve the situation? Later on by 11 o'clock, we'll be talking about schools and migration. You don't want to miss that here on Hello Port Harcourt. My name is Jude Samuel. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You are tuned in to